Welcome to Blank Tape. I'm Kurt.
And I'm Anson, and this is Volume 1, Track 2, a deep dive on the comics.
Recorded on Saturday, May 12th, 2018. Put on your headphones and let's jam.
So I pulled up for this episode the Marvel Cinematic Universe Wikipedia page, and I went down to the films section, and it's got all the films here listed. And one thing I didn't know is that they're separated into phases. Did you know that? There's like Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3.
Yes, I did know this, because I'm a nerd for movies, so...
I am also a nerd, but I do not have my... I haven't got my membership card yet, so... I bet you can tell why.
There's 18 movies in total, and I guess the latest one that came out, Infinity War, makes number 19 in total.
Okay. So, looking way back, the first one was Iron Man in May 2008, which was quite some time ago, which is actually a year ago, or 10 years ago, from 10 years and like 4 days, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, just to think. Because let's see, 2008, how old was I? Well, 10 years younger, so I would have been 20.
Yeah.
Both of us, right?
Yeah.
So both of us had just turned 20, started our 20s.
Middle of college.
Middle of college. I remember seeing Iron Man at the Cinemark in Katy off the toll road there.
Mm-hmm.
So I do remember going to see that and just being like, wow, this is like a different kind of cool comic book superhero movie, because as you and I both know growing up, there have been other Marvel films that have been made, but not any that would be considered part of the extended official Marvel Cinematic Universe.
What do you mean by... Oh, like the X-Men and stuff? Like, is that what you mean?
Well, yeah, X-Men, for one, and they, I think with New Line Cinema, so they really started the renaissance as far as superhero, movies are concerned, with like, that these could be serious, budgets and serious stories and money-making, things for Hollywood to do, but there are other ones, some that come to mind, of course. Wesley Snipes did the Blade trilogy, which that was a pretty good trilogy. And I know a couple months ago, Black Panther came out, and a lot of people were like, "Where are the other black superhero movies?" And immediately I was like, "Well, there was the Blade trilogy. That was like 3 movies where Wesley Snipes was the main actor in that, and He, of course, is the half vampire, half human, the Daywalker, who, in the Marvel Universe, hunts down and kills vampires.
Sadly, I have seen none of those, which is a bummer.
And I'm also a nerd for interconnected, just Marvel movies, even if they're not in the cinematic universe. But we got Ryan Reynolds in Blade 3, where he played a character named Hannibal King, I believe. So we could see some of his early Deadpool in Blade 3, before then he was cast in X-Men Origins Wolverine,
right,
where he did the first pass at Deadpool, but the studio totally messed that up. And then, of course, he leaked the test footage, or maybe he didn't, I don't know. But anyway, the test footage got leaked for Deadpool, and then everyone was like, make this movie, and then they were like, okay, and now we have Deadpool, and the second one's just about to come out this month as well, so yeah, I think even today, I think it dropped today, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh. Here is a pop quiz for you. When did the first X-Men movie come out? The one that was kind of the recent series.
Okay, so the one where we got Patrick Stewart,
right,
and Ian McKellen and
right,
Hugh Jackman. My guess is going to be, I think it's 20 years old, so I'm actually going to say 1998 was when the first X-Men movie came out.
Close, 2000.
Okay, so I was two. So yeah, but like 20 years ago is when the first X-Men came out.
Yeah, and that was
18.
Yeah, so if X-Men was 2000, Iron Man, remember, was 2008. So wholly 8 years after that, we got started in this Marvel Cinematic Universe thing.
And we got Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider.
Oh yeah, I never saw that, unfortunately.
I did see it in theaters there in San Angelo, so I enjoyed it. I thought the character was cool.
I enjoyed I liked Ghost Rider and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that came out recently.
I haven't seen admittedly on Netflix, I started watching the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which that does tie into the cinematic universe,
yes.
Although for whatever weird reason, they still keep the television universe. The television universe still exists within the movie universe, but they've never crossed the two. And I'm just like, come on. I want to see Luke Cage and Daredevil like fight alongside Thor and Captain America. It'd be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand they're all like, no, it's too complicated. We couldn't possibly do that.
Uh-huh.
But hopefully, maybe we'll be surprised. That'd be nice.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I've really enjoyed it. I got stuck for a while in the middle of like the last season or so, and I just took a break, and then I got back onto it, and I was like, man, this show is really good. So I would definitely recommend that one. And it's cool because like Phil Coulson will show up, and Maria Hill, aka Robin Scherbatsky, is in there too.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, I remember seeing Iron Man. I can't remember. I guess it was the summer because it was May, but I can't remember where I saw it first.
Would you have seen it on your side of town? Because I know it's easier for me to go out to Katy.
Yeah.
In those days, it was easier for me to go out to Katy. I don't think if there was an Alamo Draft House, they did have it on Mason Road, but I was ignorant in my ways of the Alamo Draft House, and
mm-hmm.
I'd only maybe been there like one other time. But yeah, the Cinemark and on Grand Parkway was my jam, because once I got a car and I could drive, I was like, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna go to the movies, and that's what I.
Yeah, that's what we used to go to. We used to go there too, and my sister was really into seeing movies like multiple times, so I'm pretty sure we saw it like 3 times in the theaters. Probably, I would not be surprised if that was true. So, anyway,
I used to save ticket stubs.
Yeah, I used to also.
Yeah, so if I had, I know at one point I had saved a bunch, but maybe I threw them away. But that'd be something. Try to remember this from now on, Kurt. If you get a physical ticket stub, to try and save it. But nowadays with the Alamo Drafthouse app, it just shows up on my smartphone, and then when I go in, they check my phone. They're like, okay, yeah, you got a ticket, you're cool. So
there's a website I need to show you that I can't believe I hadn't told you about yet, but it's called Letterboxd, Letterboxd, and it's like a movie review website. So you go in and you can like say what movie you saw, and then like give it a rating. And what I use it for, that I'm really excited about, is my to watch list. So any movie that I need to see, I just go and put it on my Letterboxd, to watch list.
Right.
And so it's the digital encapsulation of the movies to watch for Anson list that you started many years ago.
Right, which was just a sheet of notebook paper that you kept in your pocket.
Yeah,
if I remember.
Yeah.
Before smartphones, when we still had flip phones, which really couldn't hold that much information.
Yeah.
But paper and pen was still the way to rock it back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, the story was Kurt has always been a little more culturally literate on this kind of thing than me, and so we'd be hanging out, and he would say, oh, that guy's in this movie and that movie, and I'd be like, oh, man, I haven't seen either of those. And so Kurt started the honor of starting a official movies to watch for Anson list, and it has now migrated to a digital form. And I will send you a link to that. I'll put it in the show notes so you can check it out. And
Sweet.
Make a little
maybe
profile.
Maybe I should do one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that'll suck up all my free time, because I'll literally be like, yep, seen it, seen it. Yep.
Well, you just start where you are. Like, you start with the movie, as you go forward into the future. You don't have to go back and backfill every single movie you've ever seen. But, yeah, it's fun. I like to write, kind of snarky reviews as if I'm some kind of fancy film critic or something, even though I'm just kind of a
like
dude.
you're Roger Ebert.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I'm trying to think of the other couple of other Marvel properties that were movies before we got into the MCU There were, of course, the Fantastic Four movies with Jessica Alba, Ian Gruffin, and Michael Chiklis, and Chris Evans, who, of course, we know started off as Human Torch, but then they were like, no, you'd be much better as Captain America. Yeah. So, yeah, we've had Chris Evans with us for quite a while in the Marvel-related universe.
Have you seen that picture of, Deadpool is painting a portrait of Captain America, and the picture... You see the picture, and it's a picture of the Human Torch that he's
that's
painting.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That is great. I need to go find that so I can see it. We had... and then, of course, we had Daredevil. Everyone's like, oh, that's right. There was Daredevil with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner playing Elektra. And we had the one guy... the newspaper guy... Ben Urich was played by the traitor guy from the first Matrix movie, the one who was like, "Oh, I want to eat steak and I want to stay in the Matrix." He played Ben Urich, who was like the newspaper guy that was trying to get Daredevil. Who is he? And so
I never saw that one either.
Oh, what? I have it on DVD, so if you ever want to come up and watch the Daredevil that is early 2000s new metal music soundtrack, then
nice.
I've got you covered.
Nice. Another one that I kind of lose track of is all the Incredible Hulk movies, because there are a lot of Hulks.
Yes, we had Ang Lee's 2003 Hulk, which, it was Eric Bana was the Hulk, and then we also had, I think Jennifer Connelly. So there's another connection, too, because Jennifer Connelly played the first movie iteration of Betty Ross, who, when we get to the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was Liv Tyler, her first and only appearance as Betty Ross, which, I don't know why Bruce Banner didn't keep his love interest with Betty Ross, but, I guess it's Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. But now Jennifer Connelly, if you know this, do you know where she fits in the MCU now?
I'm going to have to phone a friend, and the friend is you. So what's the answer?
The answer is that she is the voice of... dang it, now I'm blanking on the name. But the computer AI in a Spider-Man suit.
Not Jarvis.
Not Jarvis. I think he ends up calling her, Becky or Laura. And I know someone out there in our audience is going to be like, "Oh no, actually, the name," as ignore the sounds of me typing away furiously on my laptop as I try and get it pulled up here. Come on, Wikipedia, don't fail me now. But yeah, that's another fun fact. And to explain, Anson already hinted at it earlier. But my dad, I love him, both with my sister and I, as we were kids, he would train us. He had this great gift that he gave us, which was a love for movies and for being inquisitive and for just connecting dots and so seeing patterns. And so I know whenever I see a movie, I can figure out who the director is or who produced it or who the actor is. Then I can make connections and be like, oh, well, they were also in this and they did that and they also worked on this project. And so then I'm able to connect dots like that. So that's where it comes from. And it started with Disney movies and trying to recognize voice actors from different, Disney movies. And then it just spawned into, full blown, Karen. I found it.
Karen.
Karen, the AI in Peter Parker's Spider-Man suit, the one that Iron Man, of course, develops for him in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Right.
So Jennifer Connelly, who was the original Betty Ross and Ang Lee's the Hulk movie from 2003, then came back to the official MCU and now is the AI voice of Karen in Peter Parker's Spider-Man designed suit by Tony Stark.
Cool.
And then I'm trying to think if there was another Hulk between that, but I guess there wasn't because it was Ang Lee's Hulk. And then we had the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton,
right?
Which came right after the first Iron Man movie. So the only so far standalone Hulk movie, and I think there's the reason for that is because of issues with Universal still owning some of the rights, which is why we haven't had another standalone Hulk movie.
So what's his face was never in a Hulk movie by himself? The latest guy, whatever his name is,
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, he was never in a Hulk movie by himself. He was always.
No, he joined in when they were getting ready to get into production for Avengers, the first Avengers movie. Because I was like, okay, so I guess they're hinting at Avengers, which I had kind of, sort of knew about in 2008 because of a brilliant computer game that I'd played that my dad got me, I think, or I got it for myself. I don't remember, but Ultimate Alliance. Marvel's Ultimate Alliance was a computer game I played, and so I learned quite a bit about the Marvel comic book universe from that game, as well as just my own general browsing on Wikipedia. And so I knew who the Avengers were. So probably when, that after that infamous after credits scene with of course Robert Downey Jr. and Samuel L. Jackson hinting at, we're going to have the Avengers Initiative. So I was like, cool. So they're going to build a superhero team. And so then that's why, they started doing the individual movies. But yeah, I think the reason why, from what I heard, and friends have told me their opinions and researched the facts, is I guess Edward Norton was too difficult to work with, or he was too demanding, or he's too weird, or scheduling conflicts, just something didn't match up, and Edward Norton gave his seal of approval for Mark Ruffalo, and so then Mark Ruffalo has taken over as the Hulk, which certainly it'd be different now if we still had Edward Norton as the Hulk.
Yeah, Ed Norton was really into street fighting, is what I heard. That was his thing,
Oh, from Fight Club? He just started fighting in Fight Club and was like, yeah, I don't want this to ever end.
Whenever I think of Mark Ruffalo, what I think of is his critical role in 13 Going on 30. Alongside Jennifer Garner as the guy who eats razzles.
So there's another connection, because we had Jennifer Garner as the first iteration of Elektra, and then Mark Ruffalo, and then they both ended up playing comic book characters. So there you go.
Yeah.
And then of course you also had you had another gentleman who played Rhodes in the first Iron Man movie, and then they recast him as Don Cheadle for the second one. And I'm finding the name right now because I guess when you start podcast recording, your brain just turns to mush. Terrence Howard. So Terrence Howard played Rhodes first, who would eventually, become War Machine in Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I remember they switched actors on that one.
Yeah, so that's 2 actor replacements that they've done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I can tell. I think everyone else has been consistent through these 10 years, but those 2 actors changed for those roles.
Have you heard that Robert Downey Jr. is getting tired of being Iron Man? Have you heard that, or is that something I just heard that's not right?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I know just recently on the social medias in our year 2018, Chris Evans was saying, reported as saying, that after the next big Avengers movie next year, that he was going to be stepping out as the role of Captain America, because he was like, I don't want to get bogged down in one thing, which I guess I get invested in the stories and so obviously when the actors changed between movies, I noticed, but then the new actors earn their place. So I accepted it, but it's just kind of like, oh no, what are the implications? They're not just going to recast it. So then it's like, you just have to be like, oh, this new guy stepped in and I'm supposed to believe he's Steve Rogers, or does that mean, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves of what it could possibly mean, because later this episode, folks, we're going to have a whole discussion on Infinity War. And so we're going to still keep that a secret for now.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers quite yet, but don't worry, those of you in our audience who have seen the movie and have so much of an emotional roller coaster during the movie, like I certainly did, then stay tuned, because we'll have those thoughts and opinions to share on that.
So what are your favorites from the cinematic universe so far?
Yeah, I sat down and I thought about it. And, I mean, of course, there's 18, 19 movies to go through. But I know the ones that I wanted to pick, because I'm looking at my document here on what you picked. And so definitely for me, Winter Soldier. Captain America Winter Soldier is probably up there in the top. The next one, Thor Ragnarok. And then I picked the two Guardians movies. Mm-hmm. I love all the movies in the series. I know some people are like, oh, don't see this movie or that movie because it's not as good or it's trash. But I do love all the movies that have been, produced and shared for our enjoyment.
Yeah, you got to see them all. You're going to miss something if you don't.
Exactly, because again, I'm all about story connections and weaving together this web, and all these threads. So,
my favorites, I gotta say, the first thing that came to mind is the Iron Man series. Partially because, like we were saying, it came out so long ago, and I have good sentimental memories of going with my family and being really excited about it, and jamming to the soundtrack and everything. So definitely the Iron Man series. Those are probably. I would probably say that's the strongest character series so far in the universe. And then if I had to pick a single absolute favorite, it would be Doctor Strange. I think it's just because I like Benedict Cumberbatch so much or something, but that one I really really enjoyed that one. And
then there's another connection too. We have two different Sherlock Holmes in the same universe. Because Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. Has portrayed Sherlock Holmes, and then we have Benedict Cumberbatch, who is, of course, on the good BBC one. And now, I don't think the only person we're missing out of both pairings, we're missing Robert Downey Jr.'s Jude Law, because we, of course, have Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman, who is Benedict's Dr. Watson. But I don't think Jude Law has made his appearance in the MCU. But I don't know. Maybe we'll be surprised in the next phase and we'll see Jude Law make an appearance. And then we'll be like, there, we've finally synergized both Sherlock Holmes now.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing Watson with an American accent in Black Panther. I thought that was pretty funny.
Even in Civil War, that's where we first saw him, was Captain America Civil War.
Oh, gosh, that's my bad memory. There are some that I only saw once in a theater, or maybe twice, and I don't remember quite as well. That one I definitely need to go back and check him out again. But and
I'll go ahead and add, just as a favorite, just because I know it's different, Ant-Man. I'll go ahead and add Ant-Man because that one brought something new flavor-wise. But please do continue.
I liked Ant-Man a lot. I saw it on a plane, so I kind of missed some parts of it. It's not a super ideal watching experience, so I want to watch that one again, but I did really enjoy it. Paul Rudd is a good dude, a good actor at least. And so Iron Man, Doctor Strange, also definitely the Guardians 1 and 2. Then
agreed.
Another single favorite is Black Panther. I really enjoyed that one a lot.
And those of you listening to us now, of course, I know I was talking to a coworker about this, about man, how much money has Marvel and Disney already made with both movies? And I looked it up. I think it was Black Panther has made $1.12 billion worldwide. And I think Infinity War, which just came out, I think is just barely surpassed that. So, Disney Marvel has already made $2 billion so far here in the first half of the year with both Black Panther and Infinity War. Black Panther was amazing. I loved Black Panther. It was a great movie. I quite enjoyed it.
So when we first planned this topic, you said that you wanted to talk about story choices and how the films all fit together. And so you've already covered that a little bit. But what else did you want to cover on that sort of topic?
Again, not to spoil anything now, but I was thinking of this topic and idea because this was before I'd seen Infinity War, and I was just trying to think of man, what choices, as you're reading through a book and you can, the overall arc, the overall story, and you could just point back to specific moments and be like, wow, if something different had happened here, just how would that have changed the story completely? Or, if they had just finessed this a little differently. And so I kind of wrote some down here in the notes, or just not only moments where things could have changed the story for the better or for worse, but just like pretty important moments. And even as I'm looking at my notes and talking now, because of course we had the big fracture in, the splitting of the Avengers with Civil War, Captain America Civil War.
Right.
But if you even go back to the origins, and I kind of wrote here in my notes, the dying mentor moments. Because, of course, we have if we just look at Iron Man and Captain America, okay, Captain America, Steve Rogers, he's a scrawny little guy, and he so badly wants to go fight the war in World War II against the Nazis. And, and then that's when Stanley Tucci, who shows up as Professor Erskine, Dr. Erskine, who had fled Germany from the super soldier serum program that Hydra, the Nazis, were trying to get him to work on, which created the Red Skull. And then, so Dr. Erskine becomes Captain America's mentor and okays him for service, because Steve Rogers had been rejected 4 different times and lied. But he saw the goodness in him. He saw this, emotional and moral integrity about, and I was trying to read through some stuff in preparation for this, but I think Dr. Erskine hits on the fact that, a small man knows the value of strength. He knows the value of power because he knows that Steve Rogers is the right guy to undergo the experiment, because as he watched with Red Skull's character, played by Hugo Weaving, that guy was all about power and domination, and so that's why it reflected negatively and he turned red and became Red Skull. Whereas somebody who's pure, like, Steve Rogers, Captain America, could successfully undergo the experiment and, become the big buff guy.
Yeah.
And of course, the Hydra agents come to wreck the experiment, and, Dr. Erskine gets killed in the crossfire, and so, he reminds Steve Rogers, be a good man. And, we look at Iron Man. He's this cocky, billionaire playboy, tech genius, and he's Afghanistan showing off the Jericho missiles, and look how cool and badass this is. He gets attacked on the convoy, and he gets kidnapped by the 10 Rings terrorist organization. And then he has to, live in a cave and with this other scientist who we find in a flashback scene from the third Iron Man movie in Switzerland. If you remember the beginning of Iron Man 3. So that's where those two first met, and then he's like, oh, well, my family was killed, and so I have to be here and work for the terrorists. And so that's when Iron Man has his change of heart. He has the electric battery in his chest, trying to keep the fragments from killing him, silently killing him. And then they build the Iron Man suit, and they work together, and he goes to free them. And of course, the Doctor, he gets killed, and I can't. I have the Iron Man page up right now, so hopefully I can, Jensen, the guy's name is Jensen. And so he gets killed in the crossfire, and he's like, Tony, be a good man and do the right thing. So both the two major, sentinels of the Avengers team, they each had a dying mentor moment, which was to help reinforce, their motives is no, I need to be a good person, or, because I know the value of strength and what it is to be weak and how to use your might for right instead of might is right. And then, Iron Man was a very selfish guy and he didn't care about anyone. And then he realizes of how, his weapons, programs have gone unchecked, and he's just been very selfish, and he was brought to his, literally to the brink of death's door. And then he has, he literally has a change of heart, and with the arc reactor, and, and so each of those characters had their starts. And even recently with Black Panther, of course, in Civil War, his father gets assassinated by a helmet, Baron Zemo, I believe his name is. And and he has to, take the mantle of Black Panther from his father who was killed. And then, of course, in the Black Panther film, he goes to the spiritual world, I guess, of his deity or whatever, the realm of his ancestors, and he has to, consult with his father there and, so have those mentor moments with his father and learn what the burdens and the responsibilities of being a king are and just how heavy those can be.
Those are some of my favorite parts in Black Panther when both of those characters go to the spirit realm. That was cool.
And, I'm just trying to think of other cool things. Of course, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. Like, that guy has had a whole emotional arc. And I find Robert Downey Jr. does a great job of portraying him. But I definitely seen his arc of how his character has had to deal with, coming to terms with, like, okay, I'm cool and invincible, to, like, oh, I've got toxicity in the blood because of the arc reactor stuff, and okay, now I finally get surgery to fix it. Okay, now I've gone crazy and built too many suits, and I'm overcompensating. Okay, now I destroy all the suits, and oh, no, wait, no, we have to assemble the Avengers, and now I have PTSD because I launched a nuke into space and almost died, and I'm freaked out about, the world coming into chaos again, so let's build Ultron, which is different from the comic origins, because originally Hank Pym designed Ultron in the comic books, but they changed it around. And so now it was Tony Stark and Dr. Bruce Banner who built Ultron, and then, of course, the Mind Stone and Jarvis, and they all get mixed up.
And Hank Pym is in Ant-Man. He's the scientist in Ant-Man, right?
Yes, played by Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
So the Silver Fox himself, Michael Douglas. And then having to deal with the fallout of Ultron happening, and then the Sokovia Accords, and in each of those instances, especially with, like, I feel like Tony Stark's a very reactive guy.
Okay.
So, like, something happens or, like, some emotion gets tapped, and he just, like, reacts. He's just, like, just gut reaction with, like, I gotta do the right thing, or I gotta, so, like, yeah, when Civil War happened, I was Team Captain America, because I was like, no, signing those accords is the wrong thing. You can't be held down, and, like, Ultron was your fault, man. Like, you shouldn't have... Like, I understand the intention was there to do the right thing, and of course it's always fine to have 20/20 vision, but... and then just the fact that, once Tony Stark found out his parents were assassinated by Winter Soldier, and Steve Rogers knew and kept it from him, and then he just... then Captain America and Iron Man had their falling out, and I thought that was super... it was super rough.
Yeah.
And,
Are we ready to get...
downfall of... Sorry,
go ahead. Yeah, get that last one.
And then the downfall of S.H.I.E.L.D., because Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. That was really big in Winter Soldier, and of course my personal ideas on liberty and privacy and all that. Those were heavily played up by the directors, the Russo brothers there in Winter Soldier. So I was rooting Captain America that whole movie. And I was like, yeah, man, take down Hydra, take it all down, because it's not cool, man. So,
yeah. If you want more of that, definitely, I gotta tell you, check out Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because they go, obviously, because it's S.H.I.E.L.D., they go into a lot of detail over all that stuff.
Right, and that's what I've heard too in the show, is that they definitely explore that more once the once S.H.I.E.L.D. basically kind of falls apart, and yeah, then you're having to deal with the fallout of that. So
yeah, are we ready?
Well, any big story things that you can think of that you want to talk about? I know you've been so patiently sitting there and just listening to me rant.
No, I totally agree. That's what I was saying about Iron Man. He's got a strong movie trilogy of independent movies, and he's got this character arc because of it. I think that's been great. I really need to do a deep dive on going back and watching these again, because, like I said, I've missed some of them, or I've only seen them like once. So,
right.
But yeah, I agree. It's been fun to see it all come together, and
and seeing Captain America, like, you could go through each character and work out their entire arcs. I mean, even Captain America, who starts off in World War II wanting to do the right thing, and then he gets woken up in the present day, and, you know, he still has these old school ideas of liberty and justice and how that clashes against you know, this kind of wishy-washy espionage world, and when lines blur, like, is he gonna do the right thing and take a stand even if that, you know, puts the whole world against him, kind of thing. And that's why I've admired Steve Rogers' Captain America so much.
Uh-huh.
Is that he's that voice, he's that sentinel of liberty that is like, no way, man, you can't, even if everybody else is doing it, you can't do it because it's not the right thing to do. So.
Yeah. This could be a whole other show, but I feel like the DC Cinematic Universe, whatever their formal name is, they've been trying to kind of jump on and do the same thing. And
oh yeah, that's definitely a legacy of the MCU, is that, you know, they were kind of like, yeah, right, you're going to try and launch this whole thing, and then they proved, like, Kevin Feige, the mastermind producer behind this whole universe, is like, no, let me show you how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bam, 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 hit after hit after hit. And yeah, you're right, DC, the DC extended universe has tried to keep pace, and
I think it takes time. That's the problem. I think DC is trying to rush back into it. Like, oh, we can have, you know, a big superhero team movie, and they just, like, throw them out there, you know, but, like, it took Marvel.
Right, and I haven't seen Justice League.
I have not either. Yeah, but I feel like it took Marvel so long to, like, build up to the Avengers. You know, you got to give the characters their time. You know, and we have a lot of Batman, a lot of Superman, but I don't know if we had enough time.
Oh yeah, no, we've had so many iterations of Batman and Superman alone. I think a lot of people have said this. I think the one saving grace for the DC extended movie universe is the Wonder Woman movie.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one,
I think that's been the one thing that's been like, okay, this is cool. And because of and I'll give DC their credit, even though I'm not much of a DC guy, I'll give them credit. And, like, Wonder Woman has shown us, like, yes, you can do a female-led movie. It's not a problem. And so now, you know, coming into Phase 4 with Captain Marvel,
mm-hmm.
you know, and then we're about a couple months from now, I think next month, I think in June, Ant and Wasp.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, you know, Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly being Ant-Man and Wasp, respectively. And that movie, of course, does take place before the events of Infinity War. So if you're worried about Ant-Man and Wasp, no need to fear. Well, you know, that movie is operating before Infinity War, so that's all you need to know. No spoilers.
Yeah, I don't want to... I think the world is big enough for Marvel and DC. I'm not going to say one is better or one is worse, but...
right. Because I've certainly enjoyed the Christian Bale Batman
That's exactly
trilogy.
what I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to say I love that trilogy of Batman. Christopher Nolan directed Batman trilogy, but... Yeah. Are we ready for Infinity War?
I think I'm ready.
So what's going to happen is whenever we're going to get into a topic that's going to be, you know, spoiler sensitive or deals with recent events, we're going to have the spoiler horn sound, which is going to be some kind of sound effect that, you know, an alarm, maybe a foghorn, maybe bells and whistles,
klaxons.
Who knows? Yeah, so I'm going to let that be your job to come up with a spoiler horn sound effect, and we will insert it right here.
I think it should be a mishmash of sounds. So it's just like, you can clearly recognize, like, something's about to happen that you almost have to cover your ears like, okay, yes, clearly this is a spoiler section, so...
Pause now or lose or get spoiled.
Exactly.
He chose poorly.
It's a trap!
Groovy. Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here?
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
All right, now that everyone has been successfully warned, I went and saw Infinity War last Thursday after much annoyance had been delivered to my wife, Casey. I love you. But yeah, she was just like, if you're going to ask me so many times if we can go and see it, you just need to go and see it by yourself. And so I did.
All right.
And yeah, and you recently went and saw it as well?
Yes, we saw it last weekend, I think. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Emotional roller coaster, am I right?
Yeah, one thing that I really thought they did well was balance all these different storylines. There was back and forth between all these characters, but I think it was very well balanced and definitely like a very good pace of like action the whole time.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think there was a wasted moment in this movie, and I think, in going back to some of the things we talked about earlier, as far as like, you brought up the point about like, oh yeah, man, you got to see all these Marvel movies to see all the little dots and all the little nuggets that get thrown out there. I think this movie and just the whole structure, because I know, admittedly, earlier Marvel movies, there was quite a complaint about the villains just being alive long enough to only last one movie. And the only exception up to this point had been Loki, who, of course,
true.
You've already been warned, he's dead. He gone. I don't think there's any coming back for Loki unless they, unless the Avengers, get a hold of the Infinity Gauntlet and reverse everything and bring back Tom Hiddleston's Loki. But yeah, no, Loki's dead now. And, but we were like in Thor, like, oh, he's dead. But then we saw the after credit scene and like, ooh, he's not dead. Ooh. Yeah. So he's going to be a reoccurring villain. And of course, Loki was the bad guy in Avengers.
Yeah.
And then, he teamed up with Thor in the Dark World. And then he came back for Thor Ragnarok. And so it was just like, okay, so Loki's going to kind of be there. Then Avengers Infinity War opens up and it's like, nope, Loki's dead and so's Heimdall.
Yeah, Heimdall too, man, that's too much. But, I mean, we were saying that maybe someone's going to get a hold of the Soul Stone and use it like the Resurrection Stone from Harry Potter, and they're going to turn it over in their hands and bring back everybody who was who got killed in Infinity War.
Right.
But, yeah,
well,
we'll
of
see.
course, I've been watching, being the nerd, I've gone on YouTube and I've read different articles, and now that I'm new to Twitter, I can follow people like James Gunn who will answer direct questions, and the Russo brothers and stuff. So I've been reading all this stuff, and it's like apparently all the people who've died, I think, are supposed to be inside the Soul Gem. I think even Thanos himself, they're all within the Soul Gem right now.
Including, what's-her-face, Gamora, right?
Gamora, yeah, exactly. So we saw, of course, the way for Thanos to even get Gamora was that he had to kill her. He had to sacrifice her. And cool story thread, because I was like, I remember seeing Captain America, the first Avenger, recently, because I was like, oh, Red Skull's dead. But then I watched it, and I was like, wait a minute, no. He used the Tesseract, and he totally transported somewhere. He's not dead. I don't think he's dead. And then sure enough, I was vindicated. And it was like, oh, dang, Red Skull's guarding the Soul Stone. Like, that's so crazy that he's been trapped there on Vormir the entire time. Like, 75 years. Like, yeah, I just guard the Soul
really cool.
Stone. And yeah, that was super cool. And it's kind of like,
him. I wasn't sure.
Red Skull's lost his...
Yeah,
Red Skull lost his juice. He's not like, I must take over the world. He's just like, I am the guardian of the Soul Stone. And it gave him those powers to, like, see their souls and know who they were, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And, oh, man. Yeah, there's just, I don't know where to begin, like, on Infinity War. It's just, like,
yeah.
Well, and then, okay. Going back, Kurt, get your thoughts organized. Okay, so we had Black Panther come out and gave us a really compelling villain, Eric Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan, who, by the way, was in the Fan Four Stick movie, the Fantastic Four reboot that didn't do so well, but nevertheless, he was also a Human Torch, and then he became Eric Killmonger, who was an excellent bad guy in Black Panther, who had motivations that were understandable and relatable, but even though they were evil, he was a bad guy you could relate to. And I think that's why it makes Black Panther so important, because that movie gave us a movie where it was like, oh, we can actually sympathize with a bad guy.
Yeah.
And then this movie came out, and even though Thanos is a crackpot and he's totally genocidal, you understand his motivations. He's like, oh, there has to be balance in the universe, overpopulation, and we have to kill half of the universe in the process.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said too. Like, he was a villain. He wasn't just a bad guy for no reason. He did have a reason, even if it was like a strange reason or whatever. You know. So I totally agree on that.
Right. He didn't just scratch his genital chin or twirl a imaginary black mustache and go mwahaha. You know, yeah. He was powerful, and he had goals, and he was going to get them done. Mm-hmm. And so, with the Civil War movie, kind of showed us that it was okay for the heroes to lose. So we've had these movies that have been slowly emotionally getting us ready for the sheer impact, the sheer gut punch that Infinity War was.
Yeah.
The bad guy wins.
We've
never had a Marvel movie where straight up the bad guy wins.
Yeah, I like that about it too. I thought it was very gutsy, like you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
And just seeing everybody on screen all together was so cool. Like, Thor got his new hammer Stormbringer, which Groot, chopped off his arm to help make the handle of it. And, of course, you had the Guardians teaming up with Doctor Strange and Iron Man and Spider-Man. Like, it's so good. I want to take Casey to go see it, but she's like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, I want to go see it again.
Well, get it on Blu-ray and you'll show it to her, I'm sure.
I'm sure, but maybe I can talk her into just go seeing it, so I can have an excuse to go see it again and see if there's anything else I'm missing. Because I've only seen it once, and I'm just trying to go through what I remember and what I've picked up in different spoiler-filled discussions across the internet.
Well, just tell her that you're going to take her out to dinner, and then take her to dinner at Alamo Drafthouse.
Oh, yeah, that's the plan. That's what I should do. Just totally spring it on her.
Maybe.
So then that after credit scene, how about that? I mean, of course, Marvel training us to help us stay for the credits, and of course, acknowledge all the awesome people who helped make the movie, but then, of course, to stay for those little juicy tidbits they give us. And
yeah, I couldn't.
I don't know. Did you see anybody leave your? Granted, I was at the draft house and I was just so invested in trying to process what I saw.
Yeah.
I didn't even see if anybody else had left. But did anybody leave your theater when the movie ended?
Yeah, a few people did. Obviously, we stayed because I was like, we got to stay. We got to see what's going on.
Yeah. I don't know why people do that. It's like, come on. Since 2008, you've known to stay for the end of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I didn't recognize the symbol on the pager. I was like, I think I've seen it before, but I couldn't place it. And then someone said Captain Marvel. I was like, oh yes, that's definitely
Yeah, because you had the I don't know. Did you ever get it? I thought checking your Amazon list, you had like a Miss Marvel comic graphic novel on your list.
Yeah, I put it on there. The only actual comics that I've like really read recently are I have the Hawkeye series by
cool
Matt Fraction. And the Mrs. Marvel was also recommended by another podcast guy that I listened to, and so I put it on my list, but I haven't read it. But I do know that she is like a fan of Captain Marvel, and that's where she, gets her name and stuff. So I was at least aware of the character. So yeah,
right. And so of course I know, being a nerd, I've seen the stuff, and I kind of know what's going on. So I know that Brie Larson is going to be playing Captain Marvel, which she. And, 3. So if you saw the King Kong movie that came out recently, you know that Loki and, one of the Xandarian policemen of the Nova Corps, played by, our good friend John C. Reilly, and Brie Larson they are all part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they were also all in King Kong together. But yeah, Brie Larson's gonna be coming in as Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, so that's quite exciting. Mm-hmm. I know that she is an Air Force pilot.
Cool.
Yeah, so she's a United States Air Force pilot. She encounters Captain Marvel, who's a Kree alien, the same kind of alien species. I think they've popped up a couple of times on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if I understand. But Ronan the Accuser is a Kree.
Yes.
So the bad guy from the first Guardians movie. He's
Your politics for me, that guy. Yeah.
And apparently he's going to be in the Captain Marvel movie, because Captain Marvel movie that we're going to get next year takes place in the 90s, in the 1990s. So it's going to be, some of these Marvel movies have done movies set in the past, or they have moments that take place in the past. But, Captain Marvel is going to be taking place exclusively in the 1990s. And if you see that connection to the Iron Man, the first Iron Man after credit scene where Nick Fury, of course, is telling Tony Stark, you think you're the only superhero that's out there? You're part of a much larger universe. So that kind of makes that ring more true, because if Captain Marvel's existed since the 1990s, so she's been around longer than, Tony Stark has.
And she's the one that Nick Fury keeps close by when something really bad goes down, so he would know.
Right, yeah. He has her on intergalactic pager.
Yeah.
So.
How does she get powers? Just by interacting with this Kree guy somehow? Or, what's...
According to the comic books, which I was doing deep dives in preparation for this podcast, she got thrown into a Kree alien machine, a genetic engineering machine, and so it, infused her with Kree DNA, which gave her her powers.
Right.
So she can, and if you go to the Marvel wiki page, it'll tell you all her powers, but she can fly, she can shoot photonic beams out of her hands, she's she's able to sense things across the universe.
Oh, wow.
She has, space flight, regular flight. She's pretty powerful. She's a pretty powerful character. So it only makes sense, And I'm just trying to think of a motivation for, why has Captain Marvel just been chilling in space or wherever she's been at and not actively fighting all these dangers? And my theory, and if you want to take place in a friendly wager, I'll allow it. But if you remember in Guardians 2, when they were doing all the jumping between the worlds, and we saw Stan Lee's cameo as an astronaut talking to some weird aliens.
Right.
I know that one of those aliens is supposed to be called Uatu the Watcher.
Right, I like that.
He's supposed to be this cosmic being who watches the universe, and I remember him from that computer game I told you about earlier, because in the plot of the game, Dr. Doom is trying to assume Odin's powers and change the universe. And so in the course of that video game, Uatu the Watcher gets Lockjaw, who's that giant dog from the Inhumans universe, or the Inhumans group. I know there's the television show out for the Inhumans, and there's that giant pit bull dog that can teleport. Lockjaw comes to get you and brings you to his domain. So my thought is, maybe Captain Marvel's chilling with Uatu the Watcher and some of the other cosmic beings and just chilling, and then her intergalactic pager goes off and she's like, oh no, something's wrong with Earth. And then she has to zap in when we get to Avengers 4 and is like, hold on, I have to go kick someone's butt right now. So that's my thought.
All right.
That she's chilling with Uatu the Watcher or some cosmic being that we haven't, some elemental or divine being or something that we haven't met. The Celestials, I think they call them. Because Thanos is the kid of one of the Eternals. That's what it is. Because there's Celestials as at the top, which is what Ego, Peter Quill's dad, was. And then I believe a step below that is the Eternals. And then there's a mutant offshoot of the Eternals called the Deviants. And they're supposed to be the bad guys. So... Thanos' parents from Titan, they were just regular Titan aliens or regular Eternals, but then they had a kid who had the mutant gene for becoming a deviant, and then that's why he gets so bent on, in the comics, I'm fixated on Lady Death, and I have to kill half the universe to win her love, and I'm a genocidal, crazy, mad person. And so they tweaked it, obviously, for the movie, so they didn't want a personification of death that he was infatuated with. It's I'm concerned about cold, emotionless, calculated murder of half the universe is what his goal is.
Yeah, that makes sense. With going back to the Kree business, because Kree blood is all over Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's what they use to Kree stuff is all about how people are getting their powers and
right, because that's supposed to be the tie-in to the Inhumans, if I'm correct. Because
I don't know much about that, but yeah,
some explosion goes off, and so a bunch of people who had latent Kree genes or whatever had their powers manifest and stuff.
Right?
Isn't that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And because otherwise, the Inhumans live on the moon. They live, like, on the dark side of the moon. So that's why humans have never, like, discovered them. But they have their own kingdom on the moon because they're the result of Kree genetic engineering on early humanity and stuff.
Right, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're just like civilians who are hanging out. And then there's some stuff that goes down, and their Inhuman DNA is, like, activated, like you said. And, yeah.
So yeah, man, I'm just now that Disney owns the TV and movie parts of Fox, I know Thanos' snap has like forever changed the Marvel universe until they change it back. Trusting Doctor Strange that we're in the 1 in 14 million combination that we're gonna fix everything.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed because we're in the long game now, like Doctor Strange said. But yeah, maybe this is where. It would be super crazy if they did it, but it would be so amazing if they were like, okay, now we're going to pull in everything from Netflix and ABC television, and we're going to pull in the X-Men, and we're going to pull in the Fantastic Four, and now we're just going to have a whole new, totally awesome Marvel universe going forward. So if they disband with the Avengers and they let them all go, and then we can have all these new heroes come in, and then we could get like a new villain with like Doctor Doom, who some people have said he would be an awesome new ultimate bad guy. Because of course, all these 18 movies have been slow building to Thanos being the super big bad guy.
Right.
So maybe with the new, the next phase, maybe it'll be like, oh, now we can have Doctor Doom and all of his crazy hijinks with dealing with magic and technology and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they'll promote some TV actors to become film actors, and then new TV actors will come in to take their place. So,
yeah,
one step at a time.
And then, of course, we still haven't even dealt with the 10 Rings. I don't know if you know this, but of course, Marvel has shot some like one-shot stories, like little cute little filler stories, and one of them takes place after the events of Iron Man 3 when they've arrested Ben Kingsley's character, Sir Ben Kingsley's character, who the Trevor guy, who was the actor who was pretending to be the Mandarin. Of the course,
right.
Guy Ritchie came out and was like, "I'm the Mandarin." Well, there's a one-shot video that happens, and they're talking to Trevor Noah in prison. And then there's a guy that's interviewing him, but he breaks him out of prison because he's like, I'm actually part of the 10 Rings, and there is a real Mandarin that exists, and he is super mad that you used his identity because he wanted to stay secret. And that's the last we've seen of his character, so now it could be like, oh, are we actually going to get the real Mandarin now? Mm-hmm. Because, of course, he's a classic Iron Man bad guy, and he has alien rings, 10 alien rings on his fingers.
Right.
They've done a great job of not doing the whole, oh, we're going to just pick a white guy to play an Asian character. Because, admittedly, some of these comics are older and, the time may have not aged such all concepts well. I know there was the big brouhaha with, the Ancient One being played by, a white lady, which I guess was better than just having a old Asian man play a stereotypical The Ancient One. But, I guess what they call it whitewashing.
What movie was that in?
Whatever.
What was that from? What was the Ancient One in? I don't remember that.
The Ancient One from Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay.
Right, because originally in the comics, Doctor Strange, here we go. Sorry, I'm pulling up details on my computer so I can be accurate. Played by Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton played the Ancient One, instead of playing a stereotypical or finding a stereotypical old guy. Let's see. Sorry, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page saying Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One, a Celtic mystic who becomes Strange's mentor. The character in the comics is a Tibetan man, a situation which co-writer C. Robert Cargill compared to the Kobayashi Maru, an unwinnable training exercise in Star Trek. He explained that adapting the character as the comics portrayed him would be realizing the major Asian Fu Manchu stereotype and would involve the film with the Tibetan sovereignty debate, but not giving one a few significant Asian roles to an Asian actor would also understandably be received negatively, which is why they rewrote it to be like, okay, well, and we don't want to make a dragon lady stereotype either with any implications there, so we'll just have Tilda Swinton play the Ancient One. So,
I didn't know that. I never would have known that that character had an Asian background.
Well, right, yeah, because Doctor Strange, of course, they kept it all pretty much in line. He has the accident, he damages his hands, he tries every form of medicine, and it doesn't work, and so he has to go to Tibet. Or I guess in the movie, he goes to Nepal rather than Tibet. And then he comes across, let me see, Kamartaj.
Yes.
He comes across Kamartaj, and that's where he gets magic training, sorcery studies in order to, you're a wizard now. Which I think that's pretty funny. Doctor Strange is referred to as a wizard by both Thor and Iron Man, calling him a wizard. Oh, Earth has wizards now.
Yeah, so. You're a wizard, Steven.
You better believe it.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's about all I had for this one. Anything else you want to hit on?
I just kind of want to go see it again. That's my thoughts and opinions. Is if let's keep the money gravy train going. Let's go all see it again now. Let's do our part. We gotta get food on Robert Downey Jr.'s table. So let's do it.
I already saw Black Panther twice, so time to go see Infinity War.
I saw it once, but I did see Guardians twice.
All right, that'll do.
That'll do, babe. That'll do.